Hello guys! So, happy SUDA format, and today with the SUDA format I actually want to bring to you the build of White Forest that I am going to be playing for the next foreseeable weeks. And it is pure White Forest Azamina. Why I'm calling it pure when it is Azamina and White Forest is because the Azamina and the White Forest stuff is basically an archetype in itself now because they search each other. And in general, it functions very well together. But with pure, I actually mean no Fiendsmith cards or no external engines besides that. And of course, the Sinful Spoils cards, which are needed to do the Azamina stuff. So let's get right into the deck profile. The reason why I'm not playing Fiendsmith is twofold. First of all, your extra deck space is extremely limited. And second of all, it is expensive. And expensive is always a factor when building a deck. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. When you cannot afford a deck, it is fine to substitute it against cheaper or weaker alternatives. Also, another thing, if you see my playmat here, this is a playmat that I have designed myself. And if you've looked at the thumbnail for the last combo video that I posted, I am considering making another playmat, and maybe I'm going to feature it. I have to still decide if I rather want to publish it publicly like I did with this one, or if I want to give it to anybody that might want to donate. But perhaps I think it's going to probably be for free again. If you guys are interested, tell me. But anyways, without further ado, deck profile. One Stellar. This card is notably the biggest choke point that White Forest had before SUDA. And usually it still was a 3 of because a Stellar was the only way to full combo in this deck. That was like a 1 card plus a non-specific. And it still worked well with Toy Box. This changed because, first of all, Toy Box is really badly positioned into the meta, and therefore, like, a detonator just deals with your entire Toy Box stuff if your opponent has any idea what they're doing. And otherwise, we actually have other options instead of a Stellar now, which are Triple Ruchia. Elzet, sorry. Elzet is now officially a 1.5 card combo, and this allows you to do the full White Forest line without going through a Stellar, and not just the full White Forest line. Because of the new support, we actually can go into Azamina stuff as well. And if you've watched my combo tutorial, this combo in a vacuum, so if you don't get hand trapped additionally, is nib resistant and makes a better board when you get nibbed than when you don't get nibbed, which is funny. And I always like those interactions. So, the next White Forest card. Triple Sylvie. Before, it was not standard to play triple, but now Sylvie is also a 1 card combo. So this is 7 pseudo 1 card combos. Of course, you need discards, etc. For this card, you do not need a discard, but it is it makes you so much stronger if you do discard for this card. There are lines where you go to through Sylvie and don't go through Archiella, and it will allow you to put at least a sort of redundant board down with literally just 1 card, no discards whatsoever, which is pretty great. And in general, you kind of want to see this card in your hands. You just don't want to see multiples. But that's, in general, White Forest cards for you. This is experimental. 2 Ruchia. Honestly, you can literally just play 1. But I'm testing this because this increases the amount of Spellcaster Tuner level 4s in your deck to 5, which is mathematically usually a ratio that is very, very good for normal summons, or for cards that you want to see exactly once. And this card kind of combos well with the next card on our list, which is the new one, LZ Azamina of the White Forest. So for those that have not read this card, if you have this card in your hand, you can activate its effect to special summon any White Forest monster from your hand. Not just itself, it can special summon itself because it's a White Forest monster. But it can also special summon, for example, if you like hard drew your Astella and you have this in your hand, you can technically go for this and special summon this, and then you can do the Stellar stuff. And if your opponent, if you, for example, have a Ruchia in hand, and your opponent stops that push, you can just special summon the Ruchia, go for the next plays, and then later on you can normal summon this, and then do whatever you want to do with this. The second thing that is very important with this card, if this card is used as a synchro material, you get to search a Sinful Spoils card. That is like the most powerful effect of this entire card, besides the special summoning, of course. That actually allows you to bridge into your Azamina stuff pretty fluently. And not just that, because all of the White Forest monsters have an on-summon effect. You can chain block this pretty much every time, which is great. And the third effect is one that is more situational. This card you can activate the effect to fusion summon one Azamina monster using cards from your hand or field. So it's basically a lesser polymerization for the deck. And for ratios about this, I currently only own 2. You should play 3. So if we play 3, do that. What I'm doing instead is I am actually playing 2 Witch. You should only play 1 Witch, but since I only play 2 of this, I kind of want to have a specific ratio of spellcaster monsters simply because of the spells that we were playing in this deck. Witch is the worst card in the deck specifically, but it still is a pseudo 1-card starter because we got Magistus Chozora. Which in general, though, is one of our main ways that we're going to deal with your opponent making a Caesar, which is a problem for this deck, because you can just special summon it down and set a card that we're playing. But really, just play 1. You're fine playing 1 Witch. It makes your going second better if you only play 1. Then, for our last monsters, again, if you want to change something, you can cut these 3 cards and go for more other copies of cards, like a Fuvalos. This is my poor man's Fuvalos. If you have Fuvalos, just play Fuvalos. But Phantasmite is at least a self-replacement. And also, a Phantasmite can trigger your White Forest spell traps if you discard them for it, which is funny. But in general, it just replaces itself and is a body, and it's a targeting protection. You can also go for Bestials. There are multiple options. For spell cards, this one is the most controversial take of the deck. Triple Tails. People are only playing 1, but that is so incorrect, in my opinion, simply because of how this deck plays through Interruption. What people are doing is like minimizing the engine and maximizing the non-engine. That usually works for decks that have like absolute redundancy, like Ryziel. But this deck does only have like a limited amount of redundancy if you're playing too few copies of your cards. And not just that, you already are playing enough non-engine for this deck. Some decks in the meta don't need to run 20 non-engine. Some decks can run only 12 or something. We're running more than 12, but playing multiple cards of this is an analog to how Alistair the Invoker played through hand traps. So let's say we have ourselves a hand of like this, this, and this. You can go ahead and normal summon the Sylvie, use the effect of the Sylvie. If your opponent imperms this, you can then just discard the tails and special summon the LZ. If your opponent ashes this, the tails sets itself, and then you can activate the tails, and then you can special summon the new monster, the Azamina LZ. And that is at least somewhat full combo. So, like, if you draw multiples of these cards, they become really hard to hand trap. So keep that in mind. And that's why I'm playing Triple Tails, because we have enough spellcasters that this card is reliably live. It is the best discard in this entire deck, besides one specific one that is meant to be discarded. And in general, it just increases your redundancy. And also, playing multiples of this means you don't have to search it off of Sylvie if Sylvie resolves while you have this in your hand, meaning that you can search the next two cards. One Sinful Spoils of the White Forest and one Woes of the White Forest. Those are all of the searchable targets for Sylvie, so I am not playing Aphis. Aphis is, in my opinion, a bait card. The card on it in itself reads great, but the problem with Aphis is that it requires you to have put down a reasonable number of extra deck monsters, which sometimes you just cannot do. Sometimes it's just better to search the Woes directly and bank on it if your opponent... Give me a moment. Computer shop. To just bank on your opponent hand trapping your... like, maybe you're mind gaming your opponent. They have a nib. And you say, okay, I don't want to play into the nib at all, even though I know the line that plays through it, because I already got hand trapped once or something. Like, let's say your LZ got ashed and you still have a Sylvie normal summon. Then you can technically go for a normal summon of Sylvie, search Woes, and then pass on that. That is like fairly resilient to hand traps unless they have a second Ash Blossom, which is relatively... the chance for that is like 10% if they have another Ash Blossom, which is fine. We can deal with that. Then Sinful Spoils of the White Forest specifically is important because of its name, but also, of course, because it is another interruption that you can pull off to do your plays and to protect one specific card in our extra deck. That rounds up all the White Forest cards. For the Sinful Spoils cards, even though Witch is kind of bad, it is still correct to play 3 Wanted, because Wanted is a Sinful Spoils name in its name, and it can replenish itself if you get another Sinful Spoils card in your graveyard, which is a non-issue for this deck. So, the next card that we're running as a Sinful Spoils card is Deception, and we run it at 1 copy. I've been testing a lot with 2 copies, but as you might have thought, it's pretty bad. You don't want to draw multiples of this, and the only benefit of playing multiples of it is it makes your deck more comfortable. Simply because you have done enough Sinful Spoils cards that you can set and shuffle back, etc., etc. But you only need 1. You're fine with 1. Then, oh yeah, one additional thing. This can search Azamina LZ of the White Forest. Keep that in mind when you're playing the deck, because you can use this card as an Ash bait if you already have drawn specifically this card. So what you can do is like, okay, I've drawn this and this, and I have a Sylvie in my hand, and I want that Sylvie to resolve. And also I have, for example, a Phantasma in our hand. So we can go ahead, activate the effect, tribute the Phantasma, and if our your opponent ashes, you say, haha, I drew this. Okay, I do whatever I want anyways. And then I go through my Sylvie lines while I have an Omni Negate, which is great. Then the final Sinful Spoils card. This one is super duper important for this deck because otherwise Detonator is a problem. Sinful Spoils of Subversion Snake Eye. Not only does this out Detonator, it outs specifically Caesar. And I built my deck expecting that people are playing the Desiree plus Detonator line. Because the Desiree Detonator line plays way better into normal board breakers. There is, though, one specific card that specific board loses to. And nobody's playing it yet, and I am abusing it. But you need this card in case they end on the Caesar. And this card helps you beat the Caesar. Because Witch does not activate as an effect to special summon herself, at least on your turn. Then, non-engine. 1 Called 1 Tactics Talents. These cards are specifically there to punish hand traps. The same goes for Triple Thrust. Thrust has the added benefit that it can set you White Force cards that you can use for cost and reset, which means that this card gets you access to 2 spells, which is great. And in general, Tactics is at least a good card in the sense that you can look at your opponent's hand and just check out how you have to interrupt them. And also, of course, get rid of a problem card like Sangan Summoning. And Called By in general, if your deck does not play Called By, you better like be playing Barrier Stun or something. This card is insane. Then, Triple Droplet. This card works decently well in this deck because of the spell cards that we're playing. Sending a Tails or Wanted with this card is pretty decent. And specifically sending the next card, the Black Goat Laughs, is extremely good with this card because the Black Goat Laughs will take out the Detonator on its own. And your opponent cannot even do the Eclipse Twins play to get back the Detonator interruptions, which is absolutely great for this. And the Droplet will just deal with the Desiree, which is great. Or it can also deal with the Caesar. So that is pretty generic. And the final card, the one that I wanted to actually keep a little bit of a secret, Triple Super Poly. So, what does Ryziel end on? Ryziel usually ends on a Detonator plus either a Caesar or a Desiree. And worst case scenario, that Desiree is equipped with an Agnum Day and they have Lacrima in Graveyard, which means that they could reborn it. So if we go through the sequence of activating this card and discarding literally anything, we can fuse away the Desiree and the Detonator into Mud Dragon of the Swamp, which is the first extra deck card I'm going to be showcasing. And that Mud Dragon of the Swamp, in a new chain, your opponent will be doing the Eclipse Twins play. You can then activate a Mud Dragon to call Light, which then means that the Detonator can no longer pop light monsters. So you can basically play your entire White Force stuff for free, and they will have to resummon the Desiree to even make their Detonator effective against your White Force monsters. And the thing is, with your White Force monsters, there's a really good monster in your White Force deck, and it's called Silvera. And the thing with Silvera is that that card also deals with the board, when it resolves, of course. And because your opponents cannot really do much against this, because you just shuffle it back as soon as your opponent tries to interact with this, you can guarantee the entire board being wiped by doing this and having engine. Enough engine to play, of course. So that is great. So these are the first 2 cards. For the other White Forest cards, we're playing 1 Diabel and 1 Archiello. And the final Synchro monster in our deck is 1 Chaos Angel, because Chaos Angel is amazing. We are no longer playing the Zappa Shrimp because we do not need it. It simply is way too awkward of a card, and even summoning this on your opponent's turn is not a good argument to playing it. The next cards that we're playing are the Azamina cards. We're playing one of this. This is the Omni Gate. One of this is the Searcher. And now for the new ones. We are playing one Azamina Moa Regina. This card is specifically for an anti-nib line that resolves when Sylvia or when LZ is used as a combo. I've explained it in the video prior to this video. And to assist with this, I am actually playing Saint Azamina to make that combo a little bit stronger, because a lot of people play nib. And not only that, this Saint Azamina allows you to go for game in situations where usually game cannot be found by normal decks. The main thing about it is that you can attack into your opponent's high attack or defense monsters, like the Mitsurugi cards. All are huge. They are plus 3,000 plus. And you can, because this thing has 0 attack, you can just run into them and deal their entire attack as damage back to them, aka like a U-Bell card, which is absolutely great. And not only that, this card can summon from extra deck one of these, or it can summon from deck your Azamina LZ, which is another 0 attack monster. So this thing deals double the damage of the attack of the highest attack monster that your opponent controls if you summon this in and go to battle phase, which is a really, really good and effective tool at going second, in my opinion at least. And I have won multiple games because your opponent was summoning a Maximus, and then you just attack 3 times into the Maximus and deal 9,000 damage, which is absolutely hilarious. For super poly targets, in addition to the Mud Dragon that we are playing, so here I'm going to put him back out. You're playing one Garura and one Magistus Chosero. This card has a dual purpose. First of all, if you control any spellcaster monster, you can super poly whatever your opponent has on the board, usually, unless they are playing like Labyrinth. So that is one relevant thing. The other relevant thing of Chorozo is that you can basically treat this as a link monster. You can send to the graveyard one spellcaster card and one of the extra deck cards to summon those, which means that you get a level 4 spellcaster tuner. Level 4 is being relevant for the for one of the final cards that I'm going to showcase. But in general, this allows Diabellstar to be a pseudo 1 3/4 cards combo. You need a couple discards for it. But in general, this is more used at the end of your combo to reinforce your board, because one specific card in this format is really strong. Guardian Chimera. This card is specifically for Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. In general, it's just a very generic target because we want to protect the next monster in our deck, Abyss Dweller. This card is insane. Insane, this format. Because of the Fiendsmith engine, because of the Bestials sometimes, because this card says that Druid Swarm cannot use its effect in the graveyard. This card is insane against Mitsurugi. This card is insane against Crystron. This card is even decent against Raizio Pure to stop the aggregator from doing its thing. In general, like, ending on this plus 2 Book of Eclipses is just disgustingly hard to play through. Even for Tenpai, it's hard. Like often enough, just making this makes Tenpai unable to kill you. Also, fun fact, this card is absolutely hilarious against Tenpai because they cannot Fadra or Sangenpai Biden Dragon their monsters back, because your opponent cannot target their own cards in graveyard or banishment or on the field while you control this. And also, this is kind of funny against Crystron because the Crystron card that destroys one card on the field by doing its hand effect also cannot activate its effect because it has to target, which is hilarious. Other Xyz monster, Typhon. Still iffy on this. Maybe we could play an Aggregator and play the Ultimate Slayers again. But in general, this card is good. It's just theory. And the final one, of course, is SP Little Knight because it's SP Little Knight, and we have the space to run SP Little Knight. So that rounds up all of the main deck. For the side deck, you can do whatever you want. I am still coping because I'm still missing cards. Imagine this is 3 Lancia. The Chaos Hunter is just a substitute. Then we are running triple Drone Lockbird. Then triple Ash Blossom. This is to side and going first, specifically against Mold Charmies. And this card is specifically against the Mitsurugi Ryziel deck, because the Mitsurugi Ryziel deck has an issue with Droll. Triple Ghost Bell, honestly, it could be anything. I heard it's not good anymore, but I've never sided it in. And then 1D Barrier, 1 Scourge for going first, and 1 Harpy's Feather Duster for back row matchups. Even though back row matchups usually do not exist anymore. You can just, here, instead of these, just play Bestials. You'd be fine with that. But in general, the side deck needs work. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and leave a comment in the comments if you really want a playmat like this made for White Forest, because I do enjoy doing my graphical designs. And yeah, anyways, see ya.